In Green Lantern, billions of years ago on planet Oa, a race of immortals decided they would become the protectors of the galaxy, and so they forged an intergalactic police force in the Green Lantern Corps. They quickly learned nothing lasts forever, as the place lies in ruin and an object covered in green energy shoots into space with one mission objective: find Kyle Rayner. In New Hill, New Mexico, Kyle Rayner lies on the floor, having crash landed on Earth. As Kyle once again passes out from the devastation, his ring repeats a warning: parallax is coming. In North Carolina, at Ferris Aircraft, Carol Ferris stands before Hal Jordan, as Hal has just restored the entire place. Hal asks if Carol remembers the first time they met, and Carol recalls when Hal was a young pilot on the job, hitting on the boss's daughter. But Hal tells her he's talking about the very first time when they were kids, and Hal's father was a pilot. Hal would tell Carol that his father is flying that plane, but Carol tells Hal that her father owns that plane. But as things are getting dicey in the air, Hal's father calls in, stating there's some technical difficulties and they need to land that bird. But her father basically told him the investors are watching, and that's $15 million right there, so you keep flying that bird. Needless to say, the plane went down with Hal's father in it. Hal Jordan's worst fears were realized right in front of his very eyes, and after that, there was nothing left to be afraid of. Hal's father dying was one of those things they never really talked about when they were together, but it was always the big elephant in the room. That day, Hal's father died, and he learned about sacrifice. But elsewhere at the JLA Watchtower, Green Arrow shows John Stewart the ring that Hal Jordan gave him. Now, John is stunned that Green Arrow would even have that ring in his possession, but nevertheless, he offers to charge it for Green Arrow. But Green Arrow declines, as he knows he most likely won't even be able to use it. But as they make their way to the next room, Zatanna has located the Spectre at Ferris Aircraft, which means she's located Hal Jordan, seeing as his soul was grafted onto the Spectre. Batman tells Green Arrow to stay, but Arrow says he's not a nurse. But Batman insists, as if things go bad, there's no one else better to lead a counteroffensive than the Green Arrow. But elsewhere in New York City, Alan Scott is on the verge of collapse as he's very sick and he needs Jade to help him up. But he insists on going to the Justice Society headquarters so he can talk with Mr. Terrific. Alan Scott insists that Hal Jordan is not responsible for these atrocities, which surprises Mr. Terrific, but this all makes perfect sense to Jay Garrick. But back at Ferris Aircraft, as Hal and Carol are having a moment, Carol informs Hal that she's now married. Now, Hal is happy for Carol, and he informs her that if there was ever a woman that could have made him settle down, it would have been her. Now, the two of them share a hug, but next thing you know, Hal Jordan is confronted by several members of the Justice League. Now, Superman informs Hal that some time ago, every road, sign, and your apartment building reappeared on the coast. Then, to make things stranger, Guy Gardner suffered some kind of metahuman hemorrhage and exploded, taking half a block with him. Now, the Flash asks Hal what has he done, but Hal claims he simply fixed Ferris Aircraft for Carol. Now, Batman thinks it's suspicious that Hal has suddenly shown up back from the dead trying to fix things. But suddenly, John Stewart grabs his head as he starts flipping out. John Stewart flies in the air and unleashes a massive burst of energy and absolutely decimates the Justice League. Superman tries to confront John, but he says even the strongest structures have weak points. John then beams Superman in the eyes and incapacitates the Man of Steel. Now, Hal Jordan knows something's wrong, and so he turns into the Spectre because he wants to help. But the Spectre pulls Hal away, as he is the spirit of vengeance, and this is not his fight, as the Spectre is needed elsewhere. Meanwhile, the Flash is getting hit with an energy stream while a voice is saying, "Parallax is coming." But back at the Watchtower, as Guy Gardner was on a stretcher getting operated on, as his body was mutating and his organs were falling out, the ring that Hal Jordan gave to Green Arrow suddenly gets hot and it starts to duplicate itself. Now, one of those rings flies on the Guy Gardner's finger as there's a massive burst of energy, and you once again hear parallax is coming. Guy Gardner transforms, and with a massive burst of energy, he blows everyone back as he once again dons a Green Lantern ring, and he seems to be back to his old self while telling everybody to beware of his power. In New Hill, New Mexico, at the crash site of Kyle Rayner's spaceship, Kyle Rayner once again comes to as his ring keeps repeating the phrase, "Parallax is coming." As the two guys wonder what does it mean, there's a massive explosion as they're confronted by another Green Lantern user. And this time, it's Kilowog, one of the strongest members of the Green Lantern Corps. Kilowog demands Kyle use his ring, but Kyle refuses, so Kilowog gets enraged and he proceeds to blast Kyle. But as Kyle Rayner evades, the coffin he was protecting opens up and a voice speaks out to Kilowog. As a force field surrounds the coffin, Gonthet, one of the last guardians of the universe, speaks out over the loudspeaker, demanding Kilowog stand down as Hal Jordan's body is under his protection. To be continued.